You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike Tusaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. Man. We got a banger. We got a wild one on our hands again this week. Just if you were thinking, I'm bored with all this just nonstop green, 20% plus upside year after year, carried along on the winds of AI, and just that will solve all of our problems. And of course, the Fed will come in, swoop in to cut rates, and just keep the train and the engine moving. If you're bored with that, then we got a banger for you out here. Welcome to the Option Block, your bi-weekly source for all things options related. My name, of course, Mark Longo. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you managed to get away from your screens. I know a lot of you were probably glued to the overnight markets last night, and they were certainly dire. Just a lot of wild stuff out there. Just really quick at the top of the show, remember, if you want to join us in the Pro, a good time to probably be joining. There's a lot of people need some hand-holding, some talking off the ledge, just some clear, calm, level-headed talk these days. And so we'll provide that for you over there on the Pro, theoptionsinsider.com/pro, the place to go to learn more as we learn who's joining us on this wild, tumultuous kickoff to our trading week. Of course, we are joined by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tusaw, as well as by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi, from OptionPit.com. I introduce them now, listeners, because I think maybe this week, more than most, we could probably use a little bit of a relaxing start to just walk everybody off the ledge, have a little bit of fun before we get into the maelstrom of madness that is to come. Yes, it is time to kick things off with our 80s Trivia Challenge. Here we go. All right, coming into the start of the show, Rock Lobster has been on a bit of a tear. He actually has made a couple of points back-to-back, which is a rarity for him. I thought maybe he had swung into the lead, but no, the totals coming into today's show, Uncle Mike still in the lead, but ever so barely just holding on with his fingernails there by half-point lead. 3 points for Uncle Mike. 2.5 points. Peeking up very close in his rearview mirror is the Rock Lobster. And the black-hatted one, Mr. Passarelli, still holding firm at 1 point out there. We'll see if he has another opportunity to gain a point anytime soon. So that means, Mr. Rock Lobster, welcome to the show, A, and B, you still get the pride of choosing the color for this week. What do you want, sir? What are you feeling?
I think I'm going to the pink one. Was that geography?
No, pink is arts and entertainment.
Arts and we'll do it anyway. We'll do it anyway.
Really? Okay. I would think of all the colors on this card, I would probably think pink would be least suited to you, but hey, we shall find out. All right, hit this one. Oh, you know what? This is the card we actually did. This is the same card with the Archimedes one. So I'm going to put that one in the box. I'm going to take a different one. There we go. All right, here we go. Oh, here we go. Who portrayed Vincent van Gogh in Lust for Life?
Buzz.
Oh, was that you, Andrew?
Buzz.
Okay, I think that was you. Yeah, okay, who was it? Who was Vincent van Gogh?
I was trying to buzz. Kirk Douglas.
Yes. Wow. Okay. Rock Lobster. I will admit, I am not familiar with Lust for Life. Never seen it. I've seen a lot of other great parts of the Kirk.
It was good. I was trying to buzz like crazy. My buzzer wasn't buzzing.
1 point for Kirk.
It was a very good movie.
I mean, I like the Spartacus and Vikings oeuvre of Kirk Douglas. I've never seen Lust for Life, but yeah, maybe an interesting one. From what I hear, he had a lust for a lot of things. Let's just put it that way. All right.
Van Gogh or Kirk Douglas?
Probably a little bit of both. Probably a little bit of column
Probably
A.
both. Yes.
Yeah, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Did you get that one, listeners? That was a bit of a deep cut, but the Rock Lobster with that moving into the lead now. 3.5 points versus 3, which means next week Uncle Mike gets to choose. And we all get to see one unfold.
That was the market turnaround because hell just froze over.
Yeah, there we
First
go.
time in 2 years.
We'll be 5,500 by the end of the show. Speaking of which, listeners, let's get to the madness. We can put it off no longer. It is time for the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, listeners, let's get down to business. The fun, the frivolity is over. It's all serious time now. Yeah, you know, it's been a banger couple of sessions out here, listeners. Hopefully you heard the option block on Thursday with the Flowmaster. You heard even more on Friday with Vol Views and Dr. Vix, and the Rock Lobster was swinging in there as well. Just been a wild couple of days. Of course, trade war kicking off with Liberation Day last week. People were lamenting on the Thursday show about a somewhat muted response in the markets and VIX. VIX got up to about 29, closed around 27, I believe. And then markets were selling off, but not terrible. It wasn't until Friday, and we saw China's response that the market really took the next leg down. And VIX took the next leg up. VIX got into the 40s, which we haven't seen in a little while out there now, listeners, and the S&P selling off hard. We had NASDAQ pretty much breaking into bear territory by Friday. We pretty much had the worst sessions since the heady days of March of 2025. And we all remember that. That was unpleasant to say the least. Thankfully, most of this uncertainty and turmoil is focused around economic policy. There's no loss of life on the other side, which we obviously had to deal with back in 2025. So I think everyone and their mother would certainly take this over what we had back in 2025, but still, or 2020, excuse me. But just still wild times out there. People were hoping for a bit of a reprieve, a bit of a détente over the weekend. You know, we get this news, okay, calmer, cooler, saner heads have prevailed. We're dialing it back. People out there like Ackman and others are pushing for this 90-day reprieve out there. And people thought we were going to get something like that. And then the after hours market started hitting last night, and we were seeing just more red on the screen. S&P selling off overnight into the open today. Got down below 4,900. Remember, on Friday, a lot of the bulls out there, the quote-unquote analysts, the smart money, if you will, were saying, you know, that line, that red line in the S&P is 5,100. We're going to bounce off that. If we blow through that, look out below. And then no sooner did they say that than we blew right through it. This morning, blowing obviously through 5,000 on Friday as well, blowing through 4,900, getting down to around the 4,840 level in the S&P, which put the S&P firmly into bear market territory as well. NASDAQ was already in one. And then these rumors started swirling about this détente, about this 90-day halt. Maybe DC, the folks in DC, saw some reason. They didn't like where this market was heading. They didn't like the feedback they were getting from their constituents and from business leaders. So they thought maybe cooler heads were prevailing. S&P goes on the rampage to the north, rallying back up over 4,900, over 5,000, over 5,100, almost to 5,200, right around 51 3/4 in that ballpark, before White House came out and said, nope, fake news. Pulled the rug out from under that rally. Market starts going right back down, right back below 5K again. We've been vacillating around 5K multiple times. If you're 0 day slinging the 5K strike, you may be having an interesting or a very painful day out there. So we were back below it right as the show started. Looks like we're slightly back north of it right now. S&P, as we're kicking off the show, off about 1.25%. Dow off about 1.8%. NASDAQ off about 0.9%. And our old pal VIX Cash continuing to climb, was at about a 49 right before we kicked off the show. Then at about a 50 right as we started. 51 right now. But again, such numbers are meaningless when they're so high. Just wait 2 minutes and we'll get wild out there. VVIX, the vol of vol, continues to remain extra caliente habanero spicy. 156. We haven't seen these numbers in a while, listeners. Again, we're talking COVID crazy numbers. Up 43 handles from where we were on Thursday. You know, when we start saying when VVIX starts getting north of triple digits, you got to start paying attention. When it certainly gets north of 120, 125. In fact, in the before times, in the pre-pandemic times, 125 was kind of widely seen as a near-term top for VVIX. It could certainly blow through it on occasion, but most times once you got up there, it would start coming back down, and when it got to about 75 on the downside, it would start reverting as well, and it would vacillate in that 75 to 125 range. We are well north of that right now, 156 as we kicked off the show. Again, up 43 points. I'm sure if I re-racked it right now, it would pretty much be even higher. That is the high of the day, so vol of vol, not going anywhere right now. A couple other products we look at a lot, like UVIX, levered VIX out there, 74 right now. I mean, my goodness, madness out there. A high of nearly 93 earlier this morning. VXX, product a lot of you like to fade, 75 when we kicked off the show. A high of nearly 84 earlier this morning. I mean, we are in, I said on last week, we're not really in unprecedented territory. We're starting to get into that territory now, because not just the moves, which we have seen back in the COVID era, but also just in general, no one in the modern options market, the modern options market itself, has not lived through a global trade war. This in and of itself, in the history of the options market, is unprecedented. I guess if you want to go back to the earliest days of options, 1973, then we had kind of the energy wars going on in the 70s, and there was some hints of that then, but that was mostly very focused on a few markets, and the options market was obviously nowhere near what it is today back in 1973. So this, from that perspective, is unprecedented. The modern options market, the options market in general, has never really experienced a global trade war like this. So, yeah, strap in, listeners. We got a wild one. Let's go out to the winner, once again, of our 80s Trivia Challenge. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, just a wild beast out of the gate yet again today. If you were hoping for a respite, you're not getting it, at least so far today, sir. What's been catching your eye on just another wild ride on the street, sir?
Well, as the president would say, so much winning in my trivia challenge right now.
What are you Charlie Sheen?
So much winning.
Hey, it's not nice to talk trash, Andrew.
Oh, that I'm as like the market 3 or 4 weeks ago, that's probably the top for me as soon as I start talking. I agree that we never really had this trade war. However, a lot of countries are saying, hey, I think there's an end game to this. The White House needs to push interest rates down. They have to refinance a lot of short-term debt that the last administration and probably part of Trump and the previous before that, all administrations have left the prior one with lots of debt. Unfortunately, this is very short-term, has to be rolled, and the government wastes. And then the second part is, anybody reading anything from the Doge or whatever, clearly there is massive. The government doesn't even know what it spends. It's actually a joke at this point. The fact that, but I'm not trying to be political, but people are protesting the fact we're trying to cut some waste and silliness is, again, I think a little bit of silliness. So the only other thing, nobody wants to take up this ball. No one. Maybe there might be 5 people in the country at this point. Congress, the House of Representatives, left office last week. Left. They get paid ridiculous money, perks, pensions, health care. Left in the middle of all this. Senate trying to put together a bill. They got one job to do, can't even do that. So you look at what the White House is facing, and whoever administration it is, at some point there will be a reckoning. There's got to be a reckoning for the spending. We've kicked the can down for the last 10 years, and now we're drawing a line in the sand on it. So, and I think I don't disagree that I would rather see some controlled sell-off now than a total disaster when there's a payments crisis. You know, the government, maybe that's the only thing that will force Congress to stop spending money. But I think that's I think that's what we have. So if you look at it from that point of view, this was going to happen now. It happened now, or it's definitely going to happen later, and it will be worse. So you have to take your pick. Nobody is talking about that. So will this help solve problems? I don't know. All I know is interest rates are lower, oil prices and gas prices are lower. That whole egg crisis seems to have been gone. We stopped killing chickens. Somebody came up with a great idea. And we'll see how it goes from here. Definitely uncharted water. VIX is 50, and it should be, because nobody knows how this is going to turn out. But if the USA could not pay its bills, I guarantee it would be a whole lot worse. And that's where we are. Maybe Congress will uphold its constitutional duty. Maybe they'll give it a try. Hey, just how about flat spending for a year? How about down 3% for a year? Give it a try. See how it works. And ultimately, I think we can get back on the AI train after that. But until that, we still got rough sledding ahead of us. And that's what the market is currently saying.
So you're part of that conspiracy crowd that thinks all this was a grand conspiracy to get the 10-year down and refinance some debt, sir?
I think, well, you have to think that they have no choice. Like, how are they going to roll? Like, they're put in a box that they can't get out of. So, yeah, so I will have to say I'm part of that conspiracy theory crowd that, because Powell, I got to give him credit. He's like, I'm not lowering it because Congress isn't doing their job. So find another way. So Trump's like, okay, I'll find another way. And that's, I think, where we are right now.
Interesting. More than a few people espousing that theory over the weekend. A lot of folks, the tinfoil hat crowd, saying there's more going on behind the scenes. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, you don't like wearing a tinfoil hat. They don't fit your rather large head. What's catching your eye in a decidedly not Uncle Mike market, at least for right now?
Well, it kind of is an Uncle Mike type of market, and I'll actually explain that a little bit more when we get to the strategy block today.
I can't wait for this one.
But with that being said, I think the solution to making the market go higher is we just need to have a 24-hour broadcast going, because since the option block started 22 minutes ago, the S&P has gained, I'm just looking at it right here, roughly 65 points since the show's been on. So I think that I guess maybe with Andrew winning the trivia contest, I'm not sure what it is, but we're talking the market up. So we have the option block factor, and that we can make this market go higher. So I think that's the ultimate solution to our financial problems. But with that being said, Trump's making a big bet right now with the tariffs, and he's been a tariff guy for years and years and years and years. And this is one where when he was running for office, he ran as a pro-life kind of guy, but they showed old clips of him saying how he was pro-choice and he's a politician like any other politician. I'm not trying to defend him or say anything, but what I am saying is that this is a very deep-seated belief of his, is that he believes that tariffs are going to help our economy. And so whether or not that is going to happen, that's remains to be seen. But I think with what he's doing, in that Trump likes high stock markets. it doesn't make him look good when markets are down. So I think it's no coincidence that he's doing all this tariff stuff when the markets were at all-time highs, and he's the furthest possible point away he can be from Republicans having another re-election. So I do believe that it's kind of when he says this is going to be painful for a while, I believe that he did know that this was going to cause some chaos. I believe he did know that the markets were going to go down like they are. But I believe that what he's trying to do is make the other countries sweat and then come to the table and make a deal. And whether that happens or not, like I said, it remains to be seen. Now, what's interesting about this is, like you were alluding to earlier, Mark, is that when it looked like, oh, we're going to have a 90-day reprieve, then the markets rallied like they did. Well, at some point, either other countries are going to make a deal, or we are going to get some type of backing down from the president along those lines. We'll see what happens, because I really have a hard time believing that Trump wants to leave his legacy after his second term of being the president who took the market from 6,000 down to 2,500. So I do believe that we're going to be in a good spot from that standpoint. We are having a sell-off in bonds right now. By sell-off, meaning like I'm looking at IEF down roughly 1%. So it's not a crash by any means, but we are getting some sales going. And then also TLT's down almost 3% as well. So both the 10-year and the longer-term bonds are being sold. But the thing that I'm curious to see how long the VIX can stay at this level. Usually when the VIX goes to the 50 and 60 levels, or the high levels with which it's at right now, it doesn't stay there for very long. And so the fact that it's there, if the VIX starts coming down, then maybe that could get some buyers to come in. Who knows? But the reality of this is that you need to be prepared for this. And I'll talk a little bit more about that on the strategy block in terms of what to do with stocks that are just going down and you're just sitting there looking at them, stocks that are hedged, how to handle hedges. You need to have a plan for this type of thing. And that's what makes options such a fun thing, is that they enable you to have plans for times like this. And that is my take on things.
Ah, yes, times like this. Let's talk about some times like this, shall we, listeners? Let's get down to some numbers, some brass tacks. By the way, if you're wondering what was going on in the world of options on Friday, I think to call it a banger, underselling it a bit. Our good buddy, the Flowmaster, it was so hot on Friday, he had to pause. He was on his way to Citi Field to watch a baseball game, and he couldn't stop himself. That's why we call him the Flowmaster, listeners. He had to post on his LinkedIn that he'll always remember when he was on the 7 train to Citi Field, the moment options volume first topped 100 million contracts in a single day, and SPX hit 6 million. Yeah, so 100 million plus contracts in a single day for the biz now, listeners. That's just kind of where we're hanging out. So that puts that 1.1 billion contract kind of barometer we've set per month now into perspective. I mean, if we could keep hitting that, that's a different ballgame entirely. But nonetheless, 100 million, listeners, that's where we're hanging out right now in the world of options. So again, just banger times out there in the market. Let's see, how does that compare to today? And we're looking spicy yet again. You probably don't need me to tell you that VIX is hot today. Already 1.02 million contracts on the tape. The ADV 1.12 million. So yeah, even if things grind to a halt for the rest of the day, we're going to hit that 1.12 million ADV. If you're wondering what is hot out there, the big dog is about 56,000 of the April 40s. And I was just looking, looks like they traded for prices around $3, $2.95, as low as $1.35, as high as $5.20. So let's just call it ballpark $3, listeners. $3, April 40s, expiring on the 16th. Are you a buyer or are you a seller of those bad boys? Might be a fun little flash poll to put out to the folks out there, listeners. So we'll see. Maybe we'll do that and we'll see if you folks are buying. Oh, right now, 80% of you want to sell those. Our producers already ahead of the game. Only 20% want to buy. We also added, can you want to buy them as a vertical or sell them as a vertical? I know some folks get a little bit more spooked by trading naked options in VIX. I get it. But right now, 80% of you say sold to you out there, listeners. SPY having a banger day. Yes, sirree, 7.15 million out there, listeners. The ADV, 11 million right now. So, and we are in some rarefied air. Flowmaster getting all hot and bothered about SPX hitting 6 million on Friday, 6.04 to be precise, listeners. Is it on track to do that again? Seems like it. 2.8 million right now already, listeners. The ADV is already up to it, just a skyrocketing 4.02 million. That's a hell of a lot of paper. Wasn't that long ago on this show, just a few years ago, listeners, when the S was at 1 million contracts. By this time in the show, we were like, whoa, something's weird. Something's fishy. Is the market melting down? SPX putting up 1 million contracts already? So now that we're already at 3 million, the ADV is 4. We're in some wild times out here, listeners. Let's look just for fun, because there's been this narrative that we've kind of debunked a little bit. I know the Flowmaster has talked about it too, but that 0 day kind of dries up in these wild times. I'm looking here, top 20 in SPX right now, listeners. Looks like we do have a couple that are not expiring today. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. So 15 of the top 20 most active contracts in SPX right now are expiring today. 5 are not. Interesting, listeners. So there you go. Does that dispel it, or does that prove it to you? I mean, usually we're 20 for 20. So if there's 5 sneaking in there, does that make you think maybe folks are not slinging as much zero? I mean, obviously 15 are still going away today. So just look really quick. What is the hot 0 day? It's the 4,500 puts. Holy crap. Those were opening this morning. 4,500? What were those going up for? You have to just look, listeners. They've traded, looks like as high as $2.82. I think the technical term for that is holy butts. Oh no, 331 they printed for. Man, if you traded those, looks like they probably sold those. Let's hope. Of course, we were at 48.51. No, still 48.51. 350 more handles. Wild times. Now, people like to pick up nickels, or in this case, $3 ahead of the steamroller. So they're probably doing a lot of that. But it looks like some of these were buys out here as well. Oh, no, I take it back. They traded $6.43 this morning. Holy goodness. What is that? That is a 210 vol, listeners. If you are intrigued by those. Wow. And looks like they probably were buyers. I mean, it's hard to tell. Wild markets, but oof. If you paid $6.43 for the 4,500 puts, these expiring today. Wild times, listeners. I know you didn't sell them for higher than that, so you're not buying to close. Wow. Okay. Wild times here in the S, listeners. 2.8 million contracts on the tape. Small caps, what are they up to? 1.45 million out there in IWM. Let's just do a quick IWM checkup, because we haven't talked IWM in a little bit. Off nearly 1%, about 0.9% right now. Let's see, on the low, it's 179 out there right now. It's 172.5 was the low. That was the initial sell-off before the fake rally into the fake news, and then the sell-off again. So, yeah, small caps, rough times, off pretty much 10% just in the last 5 sessions. We were at almost a 200 last Tuesday, 199. So down to 179 right now. So bad times and small caps, they've been feeling the brunt of this for a little bit now. And then the Qs, all hot and bothered, 3.5 million contracts out there on the tape today, listeners. So just wild times out there across the board. Is it wild times out there in single names, listeners? The answer is yes. It's dare I say it, respectable. Maybe a little more than respectable. We'll see. I'll let you folks be the ultimate arbiters out there. What do you think of 339 to break into the top 10 on a day like today? Is that respectable? Did you expect more out there? Are you disappointed by that number, listeners? I'm curious. Hit us up. Let us know. You folks listening in the live can give us your thoughts. But it is nonetheless a pretty active day out there. Number 10, once again, this is kind of a frequent offender now in these tariff-ridden markets. We're going out to Alphabet Class A once again, a.k.a. Google. 339 on the tape right now for them. This one, wild day as well. They're actually up right now, up about $1.25, almost 1%. They were at 146.85 right now. They got as low as 140.5 earlier today. And it looks like they flirted with 152.85 at some point today. So they've had a wild range $12.32 range on the day so far for Google. Number 10, $3.39 on the tape. Number 9, this one was hot. It's cold. It's hot. It's cold. Got hot briefly, and then oh so cold again. This is Intel, my old stomping grounds. A week ago, it was 22.5, and then they took it down on Thursday to about a little bit shy of $21. Then they popped it. They popped it to about $23 on Thursday. It was actually one of the few that was bucking the trend. And then it fell off a cliff from about 22.75 down to about $20 on Friday, and it continues to go lower right now. $19.39, got down to $18.56 this morning. So it's off about 14% over the past 5 days, or a little over $3, off about half a buck right now. Range today of $18.56 on the downside, $20.67 on the upside, listeners. So good range out there today. Intel number 9, $3.61 on the tape. Number 8, we're going across the sea to Baba, listeners. $4.24 for number 8, $106.07, off $10.50, nearly 9%. I forgot to mention that one of the things that took the market back down in that second leg later this morning was the fact that Trump doubling down on his double down, now saying if China doesn't back off on their retaliation to his retaliation, he's going to retaliate again with even more tariffs. So the market not liking any of that, and Baba obviously feeling the heat. The low today, 102.64. The high, 114.12, listeners. Baba, number 8, $4.24. Number 7, going out to the land of AMDA and chips, 83.43. $5.14 on the tape for them today. They're off about 2 1/3 or nearly 3%. They've had almost a $12, about $11.25 range today as well. The high of 89 even, a low of 77.75 out there, listeners. So just a wild one out there in good old AMDA. Good for the number 7 spot today. Number 6, you probably could guess this one was going to be in our chart somewhere today. It comes in at number 6, listeners. It is Palantir. Where the hell is this one right now? Oh, it's up. Okay, what a range. 66.12 on the downside, 81.80 on the upside. Kicked off the day right around $66. We were just talking about selling, wasn't it, the 70 puts last week? A flash poll for somewhere around, let me find, wasn't it 70 cents? Let me go find that flash poll really quickly, listeners. It was somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah, these were the 60 puts for 70 cents, expiring at the end of the month. Those seem like a screaming sale. It's looking better right now. 78.14, up $4. When we were opening at $66, maybe not so much, listeners. Maybe sweating those puts a little bit. Either way, number 6, it's Palantir. $5.57 on the tape, listeners. 78.17. And the number 6 spot on the tape. Number 5, what can beat Palantir today? It's the monster, ever so slightly, only 1,000 more contracts. 558 for the monster out there. You know, Bitcoin's had all sorts of madness going on out there. We'll get to that in a little bit later today on the crypto rundown. 272.99, off 20 handles pretty much, or 7%. It's had a range of 252.60 to the downside, a high of 297.60. My goodness. $45 out there, listeners, in the monster. So looking pretty monstrous, or maybe a little bit less monstrous out there for the number 5 spot. Number 4, listeners, we're going out to the land of the Amazonians. How are they feeling today? They are feeling like number 4, 791 on the tape for the Amazonians, listeners. 174.91, up 391 or 2 1/3%. They've had a range of 161.38 to the downside, 183.41 to the upside. So the Amazonians looking hot, looking spicy. Another one that's come under the crosshairs, keeping it in the A tech names. Number 3, it's the Fruit Company. If you have a big tech name that is almost completely dependent on China manufacturing, it is Apple. And they've been feeling the heat of late, listeners. Number 3, 1.2 million contracts on the tape. Apple, 181, off 7 1/3 or 3.88%. We talked about on the show last time, I think they were somewhere in the, was it 178 to 183 range where they initiated that stock buyback last year. So If you were lamenting that you missed that, you are now back at those levels. Of course, you also have to be okay with a whole lot of uncertainty on their supply chain for the foreseeable future. They've had a range of 174.62 on the low end, 194.15 on the high end. So almost a $20 range exactly. When was the last time we saw that for Apple, listeners? Either way, number 3, the fruit company, 2-1. You can probably guess, but what is the order out there, listeners? Number 2 is the old Tesla. Man, more Musk drama, fighting with members of the administration over the tariffs. Now some big Tesla bull analysts slashing their price targets aggressively out there on the back of all of the, let's just call them Musk antics, for lack of a better word, out there, and the prospects for the tariffs on his own company. Tesla 233.25, off a little over $6 or 2.5%. Range today 214.25 to the downside, and in all that spirit of optimism, apparently they hit a 252 even print at one point, which is wild. That's a wild range on the day. Either way, 232 right now, so nearly 20 handles below that. And the new number 2 spot, and that means number 1, listeners. You know what it is. It's the big dog. It's NVIDIA. 4.3 million contracts. That's a decent clip. Of course, we've seen it do much more out there, listeners. NVIDIA, of course, the bellwether, the bell of the ball, back up to almost $100, $98. We were thinking about having a poll. In fact, we do have a poll about the par puts out there in NVIDIA. You can go find it on Ad Options right now. But it was looking even crazier when NVIDIA got down to 86.62 this morning, listeners. And now feeling the rally spirits, 98.05 today. So quite the lift from the lows out there. But NVIDIA still on a rough decline, off about $10.50 or about almost 10% just over the past 5 days. Obviously, if you factor in the lows from this morning, much lower, 4.3 million contracts on the tape. What are you folks feeling out there? Are you feeling, we asked you right now, if you had to sell or buy the Dees par puts in NVIDIA? They were trading around $18 this morning when we posted this poll. Would you rather buy them for $18 or sold to you? Remember, you got to hold them through expiration, whatever you do. Or are you just staying clear of NVIDIA? And 51.9% of you right now saying sold to you. Third of you saying you'd buy them for $18. $18 for the par puts. Okay, well, we were not that far from that level this morning. And then staying the hell away from NVIDIA, 14.8%. That one just went live. It's already hot out of the gate. Get over there at Options and make your voice heard as we keep on going into the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, listeners, what do we even have on the docket? I haven't even looked. Let's go see. Let's see. What did the Eye of Sauron bring to us today, listeners, in this wild day of madness? We could obviously just spend the whole day just talking VIX and S&P puts and everything else. Instead, let's go out to United Wholesale Mortgage. Ticker symbol UWMC. Trading $5.19, off about a third of a buck or a little over 6%. So not a great day for them today. On the year, had a range of 6 1/3, so they're off about $1.14 or 18% on the year. That was a year ago, and then they rallied them all the way up in August of last year to 9 3/4 before coming right back down. So it was a good year, then it was pretty much a garbage year here for the wholesale mortgage business. But somebody, Mr. Rock Lobster, deciding today is the day to step into the fire. They said, May 6s, how are these bad boys? They got 25 cents at 35. They said, you know what, good sir, I will lift your offer that you so kindly offered to me. I will pay 35 cents 5,000 times. That's spicy. That's a 78 vol, if you are wondering, listeners. That's a fair amount of juice for a mortgage company, a wholesale mortgage company. So not quite meme stock levels, but in the annals of Mortgage vol. That's pretty spicy. 541 is where the stock was, so they've lost about 20 cents on the stock on these calls. So not exactly off to a rip-roaring start, Mr. Rock Lobster, but they may have a saving grace. Earnings coming up on the 8th, sir. What do you think? Are you down for a little May 6s for 35 cents in UWMC, sir?
Now this is a mortgage refinance company. Let's see here. Residential mortgage lender. Maybe they're seeing some lower interest rates in the future, more refinancing, more whatever, possibly, maybe. Duration wise, again, I don't think this is a totally unreasonable trade. I'm having croak problems right now. But again, from a sniff point of view, they're already down. They paid 35 cents for the calls, and you can buy all you want for a quarter. So the market doesn't like them. I think there's a reasonable chance if you have lower rates and we have a recovery that they pay something. But as of right now, they don't look very good.
Yeah, not a good sign when you buy them and they're offered in your face a few minutes later out there. It's like you got a first date with a woman and then you go to the bathroom, you come back, there's like another guy she's talking to at your table, right? Not a good sign for the long-term health of that relationship, or perhaps the long-term health of these calls out here. Our chat's not loving these calls either, Mr. Rock Lobster. They're not feeling the mortgage love upside out here. Well, someone's feeling some pain on those right now. I guess glass half full, listeners, if you wanted a deal on them, 25 cents. There you go. Let's be optimistic on this wild day out there. Let's keep going. Let's go out to, this is a newcomer, I do believe. Don't think we've discussed them before. This is Primo Brands Corp. Man, we're going deep to bring you folks the nuggets today, listeners. Primo Brands Corp, ticker symbol PRMB. Looks like they are the parent company of Deer Park Spring Water and a few other subsidiaries there. So there you go. They own Deer Park Water. I haven't seen that in stores in forever. 33 1/4 off, about 13 cents today, or not even 0.5%. On the year, though, it's been a banger. So who says you need AI to have a good year? Just put water in plastic bottles. There you go. It was $25.50 a year ago, up nearly $8, or almost 31% on the year. Most of that straight up. A little bit of a hiccup there in March. They sold off from $34 in February 24th down to about $29.89 on March 10th, but they've been all rally ho since then. So this has been a good do, as the kids say. Deer Park Water, go figure. And somebody, Mr. Rock Lobster, looks like, well, this is what's interesting. At first glance, you look at this, you're like, okay, here we go. Somebody's feeling their oats, the animal spirits for Deer Park Water. You see this big print that our Eye of Sauron came back with of the OC 40s. First off, wild market, 80 cents at 180, and they traded 3,406 times for $1.40. That one kind of was weird. So he said, hey, go back. Let's figure out what the hell's going on out here. So if you go look, they did a total of over 8,000 of these calls on the day. And you could see a lot of the earlier markets where, the stock was around that level. The calls were, $1.45 at 2 1/4. They were trading for $1.55. They were actually $1.60 big to start earlier. And then they hit that bid. And then they hit the $1.55 bid. And then looks like they hit the $1.40 bid all the way down to that last print. And the markets were much higher. The vol got crushed during the day as well. All signs that this is actually a bit of an overwrite, Mr. Rock Lobster, which I hope that is the case. I like it a lot better selling these OC 140s for $1.40. If you're in on the stock from $25.50, why the hell wouldn't you sell the OC 40s? That's a great do, as the kids say, because you're getting a fair amount of juice off the top. And then also, if you get the stock go nearly $7 higher, are you really going to complain plus your $1.40? I don't think so, Mr. Rock Lobster. So I'm going to hope that it is indeed an overwrite, because I like it better that way. What about you?
I think an overwrite would make me feel better. Primo Brands, do they make the golf shirts? Healthy hydration.
My thing says Deer Park Water.
Mountain Water. You know, it always made me laugh that, you know, people just spend a lot of money on bottled water. I wonder who came up with that, like the first person. Let's just put water in a bottle and charge $1 for it.
It was these Deer Park folks. They created it. There you go.
I think, yeah, they, you know, I think again, you're talking a water company. Again, water is the bread of life. All that, or you know, water is the whatever of life. Got to have it. So I would say selling that call, I think I would like it better. Because yeah, like this stock getting up to that, you know, to $40. We're already at all-time highs, kind of. I think that would be a tough sled. So I'm hoping that it's a buy right and you know, not a bad yield play for up there. And I think it pays a 10-cent dividend a quarter. It pays 10 cents. It does a special dividend every once in a while. Again, this is a good defensive play. If the market's freaking you out a little bit, I think this would actually be a good, you know, a buy right wouldn't be bad on this one.
Not the worst buy right out there, listeners. We are already coming up against it. Obviously, it was a wild day out there, so we'll save some of this other flow like Magnite and Ovintiv for oddities on Friday, listeners, because it's time to unleash the beast that is Uncle Mike. We can all use a dose of Uncle Mike on a day like today. So let's get to it. A little bit of the old strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the Strategy Block.
All right, Uncle Mike, we could all use a dose of your sunshine today. What's catching your eye, sir?
Well, first off, just to announce, we just went over the 5,100 mark on the SPX, so we are up 0.5% on the day in the S&P 500. So I don't know what all this hubbub is about.
See,
I mean, we're up on the
just
day. Just
anticipation of your strategy block was enough to do it.
It must be that. So there's two types of hedging that I've talked about on the strategy block many times: active hedging and passive hedging. So for example, on my passive hedges right now, we're doing absolutely nothing. We just own the stock, we own the puts, and we have some deep in the money puts. And then when the puts expire, that's when we'll take action. The active hedging, on the other hand, that's where we have taken some action today. And so what we've done I'll give two examples. One of them is on an active hedge. I would say probably a little bit less active, but we planned for a day like this or a time like this at the beginning of the year to where we would own a basket of stocks. We bought a long put on the S&P 500, and then whenever we would have a vol spike or some type of major market downturn, at that stage, what we wanted to do was take advantage of higher VIX and as well as lower market prices and sell another put option to kind of leg into a spread. And we were perfectly fine that if the market would have gone up, we would have lost a little bit and we would have never gotten that opportunity. But we got that opportunity today. And I can't give an exact strike price, but the market itself for 2025 would have to be down significantly less than it is now for us to get burned on selling this put and creating a vertical for 2025, and we significantly lowered the cost of our hedging for this portfolio. So we were very excited about that. Similar methodology on a more active hedge that I'll do is we'll be long SPY, and we will buy a 1 month put on either SPX or XSP or something along those lines just to get the 60/40 tax treatment on it. But at this stage, what we were able to do is we were able to sell another put for the same time frame, significantly lower than where the market is right now. And so what I'm getting at with this is that in your active hedging, times like this can be a major opportunity to have some type of a move involved. Now, I've looked into rolling puts down, meaning selling the put for profit and then buying another put at a lower level. I've thought of that before, but I don't like that methodology because then you're buying higher volatility. And I'd prefer not to do that. What I like about letting the puts go somewhat in the money and volatility increasing is that oftentimes the puts that you own, the time value has been squeezed out of them anyway. Not all of it, but a decent chunk of it because it's in the money. At that stage, if you're willing to take some of your hedge off of the table, meaning that you're willing to sell a put at a lower level to create a put spread as a hedge as opposed to just a put, then times like this are amazing for doing that for cost reduction of the hedge itself. I'm of the opinion that things like that reduce the cost of your hedges over the long run. And in looking at it, if the market were to go down below where my short puts are at this stage, I'm not saying I'm fine with it by any means. It would make me sad, but the reality of it is that we still would have protected a massive amount of what this downturn is. And so the message of the day is that if you are looking to take advantage of markets like this, and you have the ability to sell puts to take a little bit off of your hedge, your active hedge, not your passive hedge, then times like this can be very exciting. And that is how today actually is kind of sort of an Uncle Mike type of day. Back to you, Mark.
And it's literally an Uncle Mike day if we're green, so let's get to it as we go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on till our next episode. As Uncle Mike alluded to, S&P now about almost 5,100, 5090, up about 15 handles, about 1/3%. NASDAQ up nearly 1%, about 0.86%. The Dow still off about 0.5%. And VIX cash at about 46 1/3 to end the show out there. Let's go around the horn. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, what are you keeping an eye on until our next episode on Thursday?
Well, whoa, there's kind of a smorgasbord. But I do believe we're in the month of April, and April is earnings season. So we're going to start seeing those pretty soon. JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs next week, I think. The 14th. So today is the 7th. So next Monday. So, and I think what started kind of this off is a lot of really poor earnings, broadcast, forecast, whatever. And we'll see how true they are. If there hasn't been a little bit of a pullback in spending, a little bit of pullback in corporate growth. So keep an eye on those earnings. Big banks coming next week. And everything is all headline driven here. The more countries want to come and negotiate, I think the thing with China has the potential to be a mess. Hey, the Chinese could dig their heels in and say, you know what, and everybody knows they have high trade barriers overall to do business there. So they could dig their heels in, and there's, you're down another 3-4% again. So we are all headline driven all the time at this point. And I do have to hit the road. So anybody interested, two-way trades, learn how to trade this market. Lots of success over at Option Pit right now. So 888-TRADE-01. Hey, we've been doing 15-year anniversary. We're almost old as this channel right here. So there you go.
There you guys have to go out of business and you have to wait 3 years. Then you too can surpass me, sir. There you go. OptionPit.com. The place to go to learn more, listeners. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what are you keeping an eye on till the Thursday episode?
Of course, the smorgasbord. There's all sorts of stuff. Keeping an eye on everything all the time, always. That's probably the best way of putting it for now. Looking at that, I think that 5,000 is a key number in the S&P, and I agree with Andrew in that the more countries that come to the table, the better this tariff thing will be. But China is the big dog, so watching China.
And that music means we're all done with watching for this episode, listeners. Before we get out of here, let's check in really quickly, though, on what you folks have to say. You either sell or buy those DSPAR puts in NVIDIA. 60.6% of you right now say you want to sell them. 27.3% say you want to buy them. 12.1% saying you are staying the heck away from NVIDIA. And as for those VIX April 40s trading around $3 this morning, are you a buyer or a seller at that price. 60.9% of you want to sell them. 13% want to buy them. 21.7% want to go the risk mitigated way of selling them as part of a vertical. I like that better. 4.3% buying them as part of a vertical. And Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, if folks want someone to hold their hand in these troubled markets, where should they go? What should they do?
Check out my website, stcharleswealth.com, where we have plans for stuff like this.
There you go. He's got plans. Give him a call to figure out what he has going on. As for what we have going on, listeners, we'll be back in a little bit on the Crypto Rundown. A lot of wild stuff going on in the world of crypto as well. I'll be joined by our good pal, Mr. Bill Ulivari, to talk some crypto. Maybe we'll get some general market fun in there as well. Mr. Bill is a traditional asset manager as well, after all, in addition to loving himself some crypto and writing a book or two about crypto and everything else. So join us for that coming up in a little bit. If you're listening on demand, hit next on your device of choice. If you're on the pro side, we got a good one tomorrow. We got our good buddy, Mr. Dr. Vix, taking on all comers in the pro Q&A hot seat tomorrow. So start getting those Qs in now. Those are always fun ones, always very popular when Dr. Vix joins us to tackle your questions. So get in there on the pro now. Only place to submit those questions, listeners, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. That gets you access to the pro Q&As, get you access to oddities at the end of the week, get you access to all the fun live streams, get you early access to a lot of fun stuff. You folks got the advisors option before everyone else did out there. And of course, great giveaways. Congratulations to Douglas, who won the March Pro Trading Crate. Get in there, join the fun, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Then, of course, back again on Wednesday for our Wednesday doubleheader of OBC and the Futures Rundown. Before we're back again, Flowmaster in hand on Thursday. Another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.